everybody. This is Pattie with Get Personal with Pattie. Happy New Year! I have not been here in a while, so I am going to try to be a little bit more diligent to come back and talk to you because I know you all miss me. I know you do. Things are well, and I am happy to be here with my two friends, Bob Martin here. He is an appraiser consultant with the Fresh Start program. And we also have Mary Freire-Kellogg. She is also a consultant with the Fresh Start program. And that's what we're going to talk about today is the Fresh Start program. Because I know I didn't know too much about it. I know a little bit here and there. But it is available to our community members, all of you, and we want to talk about it and, you know, get you in touch with people that you may need to get in touch with, especially, you know, a lot of factors. It's a new year, and when I think of a new year, and I'm sure you guys would tell me a little bit more, but, you know, and you have stuff and you're not sure what to do with it, or, you know.
Lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff, and you need help with it, you know. So let's talk a little bit about the Fresh Start program. Mary, if I can start with you. So I would like to know how you got involved with the Fresh Start program for both of you, and then what the Fresh Start program is all about.
I got involved with the Fresh Start program in my former life as a Board of Health agent. So we had a client, got a referral on a client that they said that the house was uninhabitable. When I went to the house, it sure enough was. It was floor to ceiling, wall to wall, and you couldn't access any of the rooms. And I had the unfortunate situation where I had to put a cease and desist on the house, and I had to stop somebody from going home. And as much as it hurt that man, it wrecked me inside to tell somebody you can't go to your house. So we started looking into different programs where we could help somebody that was in that situation. And we started working with the Buried in Treasures program with the City of New Bedford. The health department started, and then we brought in some different partners, community services, the fire department. And from that, it's turned into the total, it's community services. The Fresh Start program is one piece of it. That's the piece that I'm part of. We have many, many partners. We partner with the Interchurch Council. We partner with Bob as an appraiser consultant. We have moving companies. We have counselors. We have therapists. We have housing is at the table with us. We have meetings once a month, and we all come together and collaborate and try and discuss what it is we can do to help whatever client needs help. It may be that a senior citizen is downsizing and they need to move out of their house and they have a lot of items in their house that they don't know what to do with. It could be that it's a hoarding situation, in which case that would be my specialty, and they need help to sort and discard their items. We have personnel that comes in and helps with sorting and discarding as well. We don't throw anybody's items away. We work with the client to downsize them. We have a couple of programs available for hoarding remediation. We have the Buried in Treasures program, and there's a new class going to be starting in March, and that's at the Acushnet Council on Aging, and that's on Saturday mornings, and that's at 59.5 Main Street in Acushnet. And then I do a maintenance program. So after you've graduated from the initial class, then you're welcome to come to the maintenance program, and we meet every other week on a Monday from 5 to 7. And we try and keep up with what somebody needs, how they're doing. Are you using the tools that you have available to you? Sometimes life gets in the way. Well, how do I help you get over that, you know, life situation where you can get back to, you know, sorting and discarding and figure out what items you want to keep and what items want to go.
Now, is this a free class?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
And so how long is the class, and what should people expect? If, you know, because I know a few people who are actually interested in the class, but then, you know, when push comes to shove, some people don't even want to leave their house to go talk about or meet others that might be able to help them.
The Buried in Treasures class is between 13 and 20 weeks, depending on the class.
Okay.
They make an agreement at the beginning of the class as to how many, you know, there's a curriculum that they follow and there's homework that you have to do. So it's not taken lightly. It's a serious program really meant to help somebody get out from under their items that they just feel is overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So it's a pretty serious commitment. When you do take that class, it entitles you to certain benefits, such as people coming in and help you sorting and discarding, and maybe perhaps moving and getting rid of some of your items. And if it's available, then we tend to use grant money, or you may use, if you're a veteran, veterans money might be available. If you're diagnosed with a hoarding disorder, then your medical insurance could subsidize it. There's any number of funding sources, private funding. Sometimes people pass away and we've helped them, so they'll donate to the Fresh Start program, knowing that we've helped their parents. So there's any number of different funding sources available to the clients.
How many people usually, join the class? Like how many people in that group? Well, approximate, of course.
We've had 15 to 20 in that initial group. And some come and some drop off, and they think they want it, and then they get scared.
Yeah.
In my maintenance group, I have 3 people in my maintenance group that have been there since the very first class that I gave, an information class in New Bedford 12 years ago, I think. Wow. And some of them have just figured out now that they can get rid of their stuff, and we've had a couple of really nice success stories.
I don't think we are exclusively for seniors. We're mostly seniors, but I do believe that if you have a disability in your 50s, I think there are a number of exceptions to being 60 and older that we should at least make sure the public is aware of.
Each case is different. Yeah. We always recommend that you call the office and you talk to Deb Henderson. And,
what was that number again?
Give me a minute, Bob. Give me a minute. It's 508-961-3136 would be the number that you called. And then you would speak to Bob, Deb, and she does an intake. So then she runs through the application process with you in the intake form, and figure out what funding sources might be available. If it's a hoarding case, then I would go out and do an assessment. So I would go out and take pictures, and my best recommendation, what do I think it would take to help this person? What's this person's expectations from the Fresh Start program? What are our expectations from the person? We review all that when I go out to do my assessment. And then we set it in front of the whole team, and I might say, gee, the person thinks they have a lot of items that might be worth something, so we'll bring Bob in. It might be that they have some severe trauma, so we might have to bring in a therapist, we might have to bring in counselors, we might have to bring in clergy.
Legal.
We work with South Coast Legal. We have many, many partners that come to the table, so it's really quite amazing. It's available from Westport to Wareham. It's not just Fairhaven, New Bedford area. So,
sounds great. Sounds like a great program.
And that's why we're here today, because I don't think a lot of people know that it's available to them. So that's the reason for coming here today.
Right.
Yeah, we respond, obviously, Mary said, to crises, but we respond to just transitions. People are in transition constantly for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it's pretty complex. And not only do individuals and like Mary go out and do outreach, but also we talk about those cases once a month, or sometimes even more so, on the phone if it's necessary. Yeah. And I can tell you that the range of cases that we've seen, or people that we've seen, it runs the gamut. I mean, we have cases that are still open after about 2 or 3 years because it's kind of an ongoing saga as far as trying to not just help them, but also to gain trust and to follow through with things. And I think that has always been a challenge for all of us. But we had a lot of successes, and we've had a lot of failures. So we had a little bit of in between as well.
So if someone is transitioning between apartments, we talked about this earlier, the housing market is crazy.
We've had people that are homeless that are just getting into a new apartment, and then some of the items that are donated from some of our clients, they're available to go to the warehouse and pick out items to furnish their new home.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's amazing how many different things this program does. It really is. We touch a lot of people.
Mind if I just take a quick
peek? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so even if you want to volunteer or help, if that's you can always contact them as well, because I just picked this up, this little flyer here, and it says, gently used furniture donations are always appreciated. And I say, that pointed out to me because you always, you drive around and you see, or somebody says, if anybody's looking for a couch, it's, it came from a smoke-free home, blah, 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 and it's out on the curb. Well,
Right,
how
these
about,
are in a warehouse and they're stored.
but
and
they could call you and say,
They could.
I tried selling it, I can't sell it. Do you want it? Can I donate it?
Right.
So,
There are many circumstances.
Yeah,
you
let's-
know.
let's,
And
you know.
those are all, of course, there's limited space. It's
Yeah,
a warehouse, so
yeah.
there's limited space. So those are always transitioning in and out. When you empty something out, you can bring something else
Right,
in.
right.
So that changes all the time, those type of items.
I can honestly say that pianos are not wanted.
Oh, I'm sure they're not.
It's the sign of the times. I
Yeah.
can tell you honestly, the last 6 months, I've had maybe 8 or 9 people call me
And that's
because
really
they want to get rid of their pianos,
Oh, my
and nobody
gosh.
wants to buy them. They want to donate. The cost of just moving
Yeah.
a piano, let alone the fact that it takes up such a huge amount. It's a shame that's one of those instruments that, for some reason,
Right, I know, it is very odd. But I'll tell you, get personal with Pattie, I decided last year that I was going to do something new every year, and I took piano for 4 months. And I play piano. Not that great, and I don't know how to read the notes. I just went in and he would say, what song do you want to learn today? And I would say, this song. And he would just write the notes, put the letters. I learned what the notes were, obviously on the piano, but I can play Happy Birthday, all kinds of songs. I'm cool. Just saying.
You are. So the question that you had earlier for Mary was how did you get involved?
Yes.
And I formerly was a city official. Well, my background is I'm a veteran, Vietnam veteran, and a former city official in Brockton for 36 years. I hate to say how long it was.
Wow.
And I've known Cynthia Walquist, who was the director of the program, for a number of years when I worked for the city. And when I retired, she said, Bob, if you're looking for anything to do, we'd love to have you on board with this new program called Fresh Start. And that's how I started, as Mary did in the very beginning.
Wow.
And I've been a part-time consultant since then. So
Great.
it's really kind of a mission for me, to be involved. And really, it's almost not tragic, but it's a shame that more urban communities aren't aware of this kind of concept, because I think everyone in Brockton does not have anything like this. So New Bedford, in New Bedford area is quite unique in that respect. So, like I said, my background and again a veteran and city official, and I also am a small businessman, and I went to school after I retired from the city and got my certification as an appraiser. So I had some experience with antiques and collectibles beforehand, but I sort of have an official badge now that I actually went to school for. But it is not to be redundant, it's a collaborative effort. I try to educate people as I go into and it's very casual. I try to not be like so formal with the computer and typing. I said, oh, that's nice, you have a nice house, and or a nice apartment, I try to compliment people as much as possible. But then again, you have to disappoint people sometimes and say, no, I can't take Book of the Month Club. No, I can't take all your Encyclopedia Britannicas. Or it's wonderful that you have a state quarter collection that's just worth a quarter, as opposed to having numismatic value. So it's an education process, and sometimes it's enlightening for people, sometimes it's very disappointing. Every case is different. Every situation is different.
So what's good things to get appraised these days? What's
good
selling?
things? Well, when I went into a house not recently, but several years ago, was it Somerset? I forget. It was one of the adjacent towns to New Bedford, and they were just pulling stuff out. And I walked in, and they were pulling out this all these. This room was like a study of this gentleman who has Alzheimer's. I said, "Stop the music! Time out." Turns out that it was the only collection the best collection I've seen ever of pulp science fiction magazines from the 40s and early 50s, which I got to sell for almost $7,000.
Really?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't know.
Right,
And
absolutely.
they were throwing
you
them
wouldn't
away.
know from your
They had a
parents.
dumpster. They were just throwing them out because
they didn't know. Right.
Right, they just don't, people don't
Right.
know. Your parents get older or they pass away and you don't know that the things they had have value, which is where, that's what made me think about it. Bob was talking at the last meeting that he was with a client and they had old broken watch pieces and they were ready to, he's like, oh, that's just junk, I'm throwing that out.
And watch parts, like you said, some of the better quality watch parts are worth some money. And also some of the broken watches may have little diamond chips, or little,
write this down.
some semi-precious stones in them. So it depends on, again, that's a whole discussion in itself. I don't want
Yeah,
to get
absolutely,
too specific.
absolutely. No.
But you got to ask. You have
Yeah.
to, not you, but
Right,
one has to
right.
ask. And I think having the ability of being an appraiser, at least a generalist, I'm not pretending to be a specialist on everything.
right.
But if I don't know something, I have a team of people that I rely on,
Mm-hmm.
anywhere from doll specialists to era stamps. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
as I told about niche market, to era coins, to every possible subspecialty. I have someone at least that has at least, if not more, education than I do on it. So that's really an advantage.
How long have you been doing that, the appraisal part?
My grandfather was an antique dealer, so I guess I say most of my life because he's one of my favorite family members. But I'm doing it seriously for about, I would say, 25 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then when I retired from the city of Brockton, and I decided to get legitimate about it, I got my certification. I went to St. Louis to get certification as an appraiser. So, but it's every case is different, and you can have tools. Simply like, I could check tools in that shed.
Right.
Time out. If they're, for example, they're electric or they're some of the wood planes, earlier wood planes that have advertising on them, you'd be surprised that there's a market for it. Now, it does change, like with comic books. Everybody asks me about comic books these days because that's hot,
Right.
older, newer. I mean, there's all fair market value, things fluctuate, but certain things are constant. If they have advertising on certain items, that's good. So if they're in good condition, condition for any kind of collectible or is really important. So that's what I try to do to be helpful, and I cannot buy it myself. I am ethically bound to consign
Right.
or to refer someone to someone who would buy it, but I cannot buy it myself. So it's basically free of charge.
Right. My mother-in-law has a whole house full of stuff.
And that's the point.
Yeah,
There's
she doesn't like to
a
she
lot
doesn't
of
want to part with
parents
anything.
and seniors that have all kind, and right now times are so hard.
Yeah,
The price of food's up, the price of utilities is up, rents are going up, and people are on fixed incomes, and they're dying trying to figure out how they're going to eat next week. And
That's
they
the
could
shame
have,
of it.
I know.
they could have all sorts of revenue in their house that they have no idea is available to them.
My favorite discussion is coins, because I can't tell you how many houses I've been to. They have that milk jar,
Yeah,
and they've
yeah.
thrown money in for years and years. Let's take it to the bank and cash it in.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah.
If you
Call you
have
first.
things like silver coins, I mean, silver actually is up and it's going up, I think. That's my opinion. And having anything from 1964 and earlier, dimes, quarters, halves, at the very least, has silver value, commodity value. And anyone that is out there that has a coin jar, a milk jar that's 10 years or old, I mean, they put coins for 10 years long, they're apt or bound to have at least a few, if not a lot, of silver coins in there. Some of the newer, obviously, it's been filtered over the years, when
right.
banks are getting smarter, but they take advantage of that too. So that would be fundamental to what I would say to help people is make sure that before you cash anything in, what few coins you do have, you really should look at and whether it's 64 or earlier. I mean, just one of the many things that we do.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stop
Could
looking
mean
at
all
those
the
coins.
difference in the world to you.
Oh, of course. Right. I
To
mean,
your elder parents.
Right.
Make
Right.
substantial change of their life.
I mean, sometimes I think my husband has some. I don't know. It seems like everybody's collecting something. Well, that's kind of when I was younger, I collect teapots.
Yeah. Sometimes
Any value of teapots?
Yeah, well, yes. You want to do a show on it?
Yeah.
Teapots.
I would love to do. Let's do a show on
If they're British, I mean, they have to be marked. Everything. When I talk about something that is collectible,
Yeah.
it has to be marked. You flip it over and say. Also, the condition is also very important, and usually it has to be part of a set. It just can't be standalone.
Right.
Sometimes it can be worth something, but it's exponentially worth more when it's a English tea set or Bavarian tea set or something to that nature. I did want to mention, getting back to silverware, something as simple as silverware. You'd be surprised how many people think, well, I don't have sterling silver, Bob, but I have this other stuff. It turns out they have a silver plate set that is marked it's worth something. It's not worth as much as silver, but it's worth something as a complete set. Also, the fact that silver plate as an item has value by the pound. So it might be a fortune, but at the same time, if they're throwing it out, it would be a shame.
Right.
So that's as opposed to stainless steel. Stainless steel you can do whatever you want with.
Right, okay.
So unfortunately, with sterling silver, with silverware, it's usually marked either with a crown or with sterling on it. There is such a thing as coin silver, which is the early silver, which is not marked. You got to test it. I'm trying to get as much information as possible.
Right, absolutely.
Mary's going to time me. But the other thing is complete sets of silver plate, and they're in nice boxes and everything else, sometimes can be marketable and sellable.
And you're going from your 9-room house down
Yes.
to your
Yeah,
2-room
Yes.
senior
Farmer.
citizens housing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you can't take it all. As
No.
much as you'd like to, you can't take it all. You just don't have the real estate for it. So
Right.
that's the reason why, before you, if you're thinking about it, you're thinking about downsizing, you're thinking about moving to someplace smaller, and you have to get rid of some things, then make the call.
Right.
Absolutely.
Why not?
The services that we provide, if anything is information, it's a valuable tool for people. I just happen to be excited about having a warehouse that we have a resource for to not only get stuff in, but also to bring
Provide
people
stuff.
right out.
Right,
It's both-
exactly.
both
So you can
ways.
help,
And helping with moving, helping with packing, helping with
Yes,
downsizing.
sorting.
I
I
mean,
was going to
there's
say, is there an age for Fresh Start? Is there an age requirement? Is it
the majority of
60,
the program
55?
is geared around senior citizens.
Okay.
But as we said, there are certain circumstances. I went
Okay.
to a client who was 28 years old, but DCF asked me to go,
Right,
and
right.
DCF was going to pay for our services.
Right, okay.
So
So it's
we're not
yeah.
opposed to anybody calling, and each case is different. So if you think it's something that you might need, then I would suggest you
Yeah,
make the
just
call.
Make the call. Right, okay.
Cynthia Walquist has been wonderful. We've had some crazy cases that, she's like, Mary, just go out and see if it's something we can do. And sometimes it's not something
Right.
that fits in our umbrella,
But
but,
you
we
can-
know somebody.
Yeah, you can resource it out.
So we help somebody out along the way. I've worked with you in the Rotary.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've done collections for e-waste. We've
Yeah.
done paper. A lot of people have a lot of
Shredded,
paper
yeah.
that they don't know what to do with. So we've had shredded paper days. We've had
I'd like
e-waste
to have another
collection
shredded
days.
day.
The recycle bins, now it's
Yeah.
state of Massachusetts, you can't throw out your textiles, so the recycle bins. Not sure if Fairhaven still does it or not, but a portion of that would go towards hoarding remediation. When I set up the grant when I was here, that was part of it. That we would get money back per pound, and that money would go towards hoarding remediation. So suppose a person who lived in Fairhaven wanted to get rid of some of their belongings, and they didn't have the money for a dumpster. That money would pay for a dumpster for that resident.
I think I still see a couple of the textile boxes around town.
I think they might have changed companies, and hopefully they
Okay.
continued the program.
Yeah, I
I'm
would
not
hope so,
sure.
too.
I did make a phone call trying to find out if that were, but I know at the time it was set up that way, and if it isn't, then perhaps the townspeople would ask to have it put back.
Right.
Because it's kind of full circle. It helps the people with a hoarding disorder get rid of their items, and it helps them fund the next person who needs help. So it's a pretty decent program.
Right. It sounds great. I mean, like I said, I didn't know too much about it, and then I knew with you and Amanda working the program, but there's, just the housing market is crazy. I know I keep saying that, but we were just at work today. We were just talking about rents. People are paying as much in rent as I did my first house in a mortgage.
Right.
I honestly, I don't know how they afford it. I don't know how people can afford $15,000, $16,000, $17,000, $2,000 in rent, because I don't think the wages are catching up that much.
Plus utilities have gone.
Oh yeah, electric is crazy. Right, exactly. So there's definitely resources out there for people, community, and whether you want to volunteer maybe, or whether you yourself know
Or
someone,
donate,
or you want to donate, certainly.
I
sounds
urge
like a
people
great
to
program.
please ask. Please call that number and talk to one of the staff or myself before they throw things out
stuff
that
away.
could be tragic. I mean, as far as what it could be worth, and then again, it could be junk, and I
Right,
could be agreeing with them.
absolutely,
But I think if they don't have the knowledge then that number is so important to call to just ask some questions.
And I think we should have a show on appraising. That would be great.
I have actually, I was going to bring in my car, I was going to bring in as an example, what is something worth? I have a mortar site that I captured as part of my advisory team in Vietnam, a VC mortar site. That was a VC mortar platoon, and there was a mortar site, and I've kept it as a memento.
I don't know what a mortar site is.
It's a rangefinder, basically.
Okay.
So how much is it worth? It's priceless to me because it's part of my history.
Correct.
So the tragic is I've actually had people throw out their grandfather's Purple Hearts because they said, it's not, it's World War II stuff. And no, you have to find some family member to give it to. It's part of your history. I know it sounds...
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm sort of biased, obviously, being in the military myself. But things you want to encourage people to either keep or to give to their next of kin, but also, or family members, but also the fact that if you have something you're not sure of, don't take the easy route and just discard it.
Yeah, right,
you know?
Right.
Even photography. Some photography, you'd be surprised from, I would say, from 1940s and earlier, depending what the content is, could be worth money. So.
And I mean, I am one of those people that I tend to get into the cleaning mode. Of the garage, or the cleaning mode. Right. And I'm like, throw everything out. My husband's like, I have that. Can you not? I'm like, oh, you have. If it's been in the box for a year, you can't had wanted it. But you're right. I mean, there could be something in there that, geez.
One never knows.
One never knows. Well, I'm going to keep Bob Martin's number.
I'll give you my card.
He's going to be in my cell phone.
But even have somebody here. Now that's a whole other subject itself. Talking about even about what is something that's legitimate, authentic. Well, I mean, for example, I was going to mention sports like Tom Brady, for example. Tom Brady signed a million things, but at the same time, there's a lot of fake Tom Brady signatures. So what is real has to be certified, what they call a cert, certificate of authenticity.
And that's something that you do? Or you
I really refer out because I can't certify. There's a lot of electropen signatures that look exactly like the real thing. So you have to have it done if you think if the original value of something is worth something, it's worth getting it. Getting that cert, getting that certificate of authenticity. But I'm getting really into the weeds in this. But there's so many examples of what we do and what we can do for people. So.
I'm sure. I think one time, actually, when we were cleaning out my grandmother's house, many moons ago, I don't know where it is, but it's not very good condition either. But I think there was, I'm trying to think, like a newspaper article that she kept. So she must have thought, but just like old newspaper articles.
No, articles from newspapers normally, unless
like JFK or something.
There's so many of those. They're nice they're nice, but they have really no
value.
But they're newspapers from VJ day, from the victory in Europe, World War II, and early. Certain significant dates. If you have the full newspaper, it's worth something. It's like saying, another example is stock certificates. People who the grandparents, it's all done. They cashed it in, but the stock certificate, as a piece of paper, could be worth some money because it has trains or trolleys on it or something that is collectible. So the certificate has been cashed in, but at the same time, the certificate's called scriptology could be worth something to a tongue twister, scriptologist. I know that gets really specific, but there's so many examples that we run through. Even paintings. I mean, there are a lot of prints, but sometimes you run across an original painting by an artist that has an auction history to it. It may not be a Matisse or a Monet, but it could be something valuable. So
interesting. How many would you say, just off the top of your head, of your consumers that have attended the Fresh Start program, are there specific people that you can remember that did have things of worth that you guys helped?
Sure.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, I would say a good 40%. I'll put an estimate, about 40%. Really? Yeah. I'm working with a woman now in Acushnet that I won't mention anything about specifically, but we're over $2,000 with her in terms of she's still got stuff left in the house.
And she had no idea.
No. Well, she knew that there was something, but she wasn't sure, and she just happened to call through Acushnet. So there's one town, but there are many examples of that. I mentioned that the fellow with the pulp magazines, and there's people with coins. People with one woman had a huge not amethyst. What am I thinking of? It begins with an A, and it has occlusions in it. Anyways, it was a semi-precious piece of stone, but it was very large. And she thought, it was just pretty. No, it's worth $650.
Yeah, that's pretty.
It's pretty in my pocket.
Yeah, exactly. See?
It had flaws in it. The flaws helped make it. I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
forget
no,
the.
that's okay. That's okay.
But that's another
See, that's-
example where
I
I
also-
took it to a gemologist, and
And look at that.
yeah.
Wow.
You just don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know, so that's
So
why we're
yeah.
here.
Well, I mean, there is a lot of information that we discussed, and we'll certainly leave both maybe Bob and Mary's email, or at least Fresh Start and the phone number for people to, if
Yeah,
you.
this information is available.
Okay.
If you go to the City of New Bedford website, you go to
Okay,
Community
this is what it looks
Services. Right, all this information would be available to them.
Okay.
And
Each
you can-
council on aging should have.
Yeah,
Each council on aging has it available.
out,
We work with
Fairhaven.
Fairhaven, Acushnet, New Bedford, Mattapoisett, Marion. We've worked Wareham, Somerset,
And,
Westport.
and actually the Buried in Treasures here on Saturdays, and there's an email address here that you can email the person if you're interested in learning more, or a phone number, or just drop in. And you're not committing to being there for the full. If you go in, you don't think it's for you.
You can go and
it's not-
investigate.
Right, go and
There's
investigate.
The Buried in Treasures program, there's an introductory period that's a couple of weeks in the beginning. That's not necessarily part of the program. It's kind of meet and greet and get comfortable.
Yeah.
Because with that program, most people that have hoarding disorder, they don't want the whole world
I
to know.
agree.
That's their biggest secret. So they got the courage to go, but now they're nervous. Oh, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I want to do this. They're going to get rid of my stuff.
Right, right. That's
so
what their fear is.
they
They-
build
they
up
fear.
anxiety about it, but then they go there, and you're with people that are in the same situation as you.
Right.
So you get now for people that have isolated themselves because they didn't want somebody to take their stuff away, so they tend to stay in their house with their belongings.
Right.
Now you have people that have the same situation that you are. They have the same mindset. They have hoarding disorder. So you can talk about it. And you'd be amazed how many times they help each other, and I'd just sit there. I just
Right,
watch
right,
them
right.
helping each other with
That's
this.
cool.
Hey, you know what? How about this? I tried this. Well, why don't you try that? And they'll bounce
cool.
off each other to come up with solutions, which is exactly what you want. You
Right,
want
right,
them to
right.
build
That's
those
great.
those bonds and those friendships. And then afterwards, it goes to the maintenance program, which is what I do.
Oh, you do. That's cool.
And people need to feel they have someone they can trust, some
Absolutely.
entity they can trust. And, this is why we're here, too, because we are in a position, because, for example, I can't make money out of this. People,
Right,
look, I'm
right.
not a businessman coming in like, there's plenty of
Right.
auction houses. I mean, there's not plenty
Right.
anymore. Actually, our auction houses have been diminished, but there's plenty of antique dealers around. But there's not a lot of guys that are working for a city to be
Right.
objective with people to say, here's what I think fair market value is, as opposed
Right.
to somebody who's
Who
looking
wants
to make
the
some money.
Right, right,
So-
right.
And our mission is to keep you in your house.
Right.
Keep you safe and keep you in your house.
Right.
We work with boards of health from Westport to all the way to Wareham. We've had many calls from boards of health saying, hey, these people need help. Or they would be in that situation where I started. And that was the most horrific experience I've ever
Yeah.
been through. Telling somebody you couldn't go home
Right.
decimated me. I
Right.
said, there's got to be a better way.
Right,
There has
right.
to be a better way. We got to do something.
And how long has the program Fresh Start been around?
10 years.
10 years.
I've been doing this about 15.
Wow.
And Fresh Start, that's exactly how it happened, is through this program. Then Cynthia got involved because she had the community services, we had the Board of Health part of
Wow.
it. So we all came together and getting the initial visit, trying to get that person to understand that we're not going to take your belongings, we're not going to throw
Right,
you out of your
right,
house,
right.
we're not going to throw you in a nursing home. There's
Right,
so
right.
many fears that people
Oh, sure.
have. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to work with you to help you go through your items and see what you can get rid of. And it's interesting that there's usually something, or someone said something, did something, or made you feel less than
Right.
sometime in your life. And that's what
That's
started
what
your
started
hoarding. And
it.
it's a specific incident. And I can't tell you how many times that I've had people in the class and they'll go, oh my God, I know what it was. But they had no idea what that driving force was that happened when they were 15 or when they were 12, or when they were 30. You know, somebody passed away, or a child, they lost a child, or they got divorced, or there was an accident, or their parent died, or some situation happened that started it, that planted that seed so many years ago. And now, later on in life, is when it comes back.
I mean, I would think that some elderly people, it might be that, you know, I know my mother-in-law maybe, and she's 91, so, you know, she's, you know, older. I would think that something about, you know, well, I didn't have that when I
Living
grew
through
up
the
in
war.
Italy. I didn't have that. I
Yeah.
came to, you know, she came to New York at whatever age, you know, 8 or 9. So, you know, that's kind of why she keeps everything.
Right, because they didn't know when they were going to have more, so
Right.
they saved everything.
It would be interesting to have on a show a psychologist or psychiatrist from the Bedford area that specializes not only in hoarding, but also why people feel that paper is a barrier for the reality. I can tell you, like 1/3 of the people I see have extensive amount. You mentioned newspapers, literally 4, 5, 6 feet high sometimes.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in the main room, but it could be in the basement.
Yes,
it could be in the or even in the attic. But tons of newspapers they never threw away.
Yep. My
Which
mother-in-law
has-
has tons of magazines. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't even
Yeah,
walk into
paper,
a certain
paper.
room.
Right, which
Just
has weight,
tons.
and that's weighing on your house.
It's a fire
Yeah.
hazard.
It
Oh,
makes
yeah,
it
of course
hazard.
it is. Of
You know,
course it is.
it's unsafe, and that's where the Board of Health gets a phone call. So then they go in and they say, you know, we have to help you to make this safe.
Yeah.
So, and it's not a frightening thing. We're not there to frighten
Right,
anybody. We're there
absolutely.
to,
Right,
you
absolutely.
know, I had a client, she was scared to death, and she was wheelchair bound, and she was panicked, and I got down on my knees and I looked at her eye to
Right,
eye, and I
right.
said, I'm not going to throw you out of your
Right,
house.
right, exactly.
I'm
You're
not
here to help
here
you.
to hurt you. I'm here to keep you in your house.
Right.
That's our purpose and our mission,
Right.
is to put you in a safe place.
Yeah.
Whether it's in your house, or maybe you won't want anything and you'll want to go someplace
Right,
else. You
right.
might find that's the case.
Right.
I had a client, very first time I met her, and I said, imagine someday that you'll look at me and say, I don't want it, get it out. I just don't want this anymore. And she physically started to shake.
Yeah.
She was panicked
Yeah.
and physically shaking. And believe it or not, that day came around and she looked me square in the face and she said, I don't want it anymore. I'd be just as happy if you got a dumpster and took it all
Yeah,
out. I
right.
don't need it anymore.
Right. That's
And I was
great.
like, remember that day? Do you remember
Yeah,
that day? And
yeah.
she went, you said that right
Yeah.
in the very, very beginning. Because there was nothing holding her back. Though
Right.
she didn't need the stuff because she figured out why she was
Why she's
saving
doing
the
it.
items.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing, amazing.
A lot of lives changing.
Yep.
We
Yep.
want to change yours. Right? Good resources out there.
Yeah.
I want to thank Mary and Bob for both coming on, and it's been a great show. I hope that, you know, learn techniques on why you keep it, why you don't, if you need some help. We will have the Fresh Start phone numbers at the end of the show, as well as emails. So reach out to us, and bye. Thanks for coming on the Get Personal Pattie Show.
Oh, thank you.